Yes, I'm a king, oh, I think I'm a king, oh,
When we talk to the US government, we say to them that the African continent has got a great wealth of policy positions about itself. As a continent, we've got the policy on democracy. We've got policy on the gender question. We've got a policy on children, on the economy, on peace and security, anything and everything. So the continent does not need to be educated by anybody at all about its own future. Yeah. So we say to the Americans, therefore, that if they want Africa to have a positive approach towards the United States, all the United States needs to do is to support Africa on each of these policy positions, whether it's about democracy or the economy or whatever, that the continent would indeed appreciate that support, so that you do not have a United States which comes to Africa to tell the African continent what to do, but to come to the continent in support of the positions that the African continent has taken. And that's what we say. I don't know what the government say when they talk to the United States. But that would be my advice to the government also. When you talk to them, tell them. They don't come here to instruct us about to do about anything. They come to support what we as a continent have decided. The question that was raised about an African ideology. We said, I'm talking now as the ANC, we said we are fighting for the victory of the National Democratic Revolution. Now, I've seen a lot of discussion about this, with some people like these ones who were at the Moonshot Pact, saying that this comes from Moscow, this NDR. It's some ideology which is, I don't know what. Colleagues, NDR stands for National Democratic Revolution. It arises in this context that many countries in Africa and elsewhere had to fight for liberation from colonial oppression, as a result of which they get national liberation. That's what the N stands for, nothing to do with Moscow. It's national liberation from colonial oppression. Here we're fighting from national liberation from apartheid oppression, which is colonial oppression. Then there's the D. The D stands for democratic. You could have, you fight for a national liberation struggle. You succeed. You defeat the colonialists. So in that sense, the national liberation has been achieved. But here comes a Thabo Mbeki, who's carrying a gun, impose himself on you as a dictator. So the D is missing. So people who are engaged in our kind of struggle said, we need national liberation to be replaced by a democratic system. And together these constitute a revolution. And that's absolutely all. National liberation, democracy. That's what NDR stands for. A lot of theorizing from these people about an importation from Moscow, and they cook up all sorts of things. And my view has been for many years that this is what should unite all of the countries on our continent. You look from the top to bottom. A realization of the objectives of a national democratic revolution. The Algerians need that in the same way as the South Africans need that. When the old man Kabila was still there, still alive, we talked to him and said to him, our view is, you are a Lumumbist. He was a part of the leadership under Patrice Lumumba, old man Laurent Kabila. We said that our own view is that the Lumumbists must come together. It's after they had removed Mobutu Sese Seko. The Lumumbists must come together because what happened with the assassination of Patrice Lumumba was a disruption of this national democratic revolution. We must go back to the national democratic revolution in the Congo to deal with the challenges of national liberation from Belgium and the establishment of a democratic state. The old man Kabila said we were wrong. And the reason we were wrong in saying that to him is because he said he's the only Lumumbist left. So there were no other Lumumbists to bring together. But that is what I think is the challenge that faces the continent as a whole. Is the realization of the national democratic revolution in all our countries. And so I'm saying you will find somebody in one of the Francophone countries who gives me a business card. On one side, it's got his name, the minister, and his address, contact numbers in his country, on this side. On this side, it's his name, minister, contact addresses in Paris. What does that signify? That's part of the national liberation. And you need this democratic part also. So you don't have these military people who want to come and govern and all of that. It's in that context that these other matters arise about national unity, national integration, African unity, integration, African Renaissance, and all of that. Ideologically, the framework is the national democratic revolution. And there's a great weakness with regard to that. You don't have, on the continent, there are very few parties of the national democratic revolution that sincerely, genuinely believe in that, and therefore will fight for the realization of this national democratic goals. And that is part of our problem here. Part of the negatives that come from the ANC is exactly this. Failure to have close attachment to the goals of a national democratic revolution.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king, I think I'm a king,